and grinding out in public. I'm so proud of this deer. One of my goals this year was to kill a buck out of the Lone Wolf Custom Gear .5, and baby, we did it November 6th. Hell yeah.
And we have an awesome story that we want to share with you guys. So just to give you guys a little bit of a background, I did post a picture of this on my Instagram and also my Facebook page of this deer that I was actually fortunate to harvest on November 6th. And I got a ton of questions on whether or not I got this hunt on film. And unfortunately, I did not. And we'll talk about that a little bit later in the video. But I do want to give you guys an update and tell you basically how this hunt unfolded. So with that being said, I kind of want to just dive into this. This may be a little bit of a long-winded video, but there's a lot of details that I want to share with you guys, and I think that there's a lot that you guys will be able to learn from this, especially if you're new to hunting. So I've talked about it before in some of the previous videos, and this year, going into the 2021 hunting season, we changed our hunting tactics. So historically in the past, I've always been one that's gone out, set up a preset stand location out on public ground, and I've hunted that stand religiously every single weekend. So last year I saw a bunch of shooter bucks that had crossed this ridge, and they were all outside of bow range. So I quickly saw the need for being a mobile hunter, or being able to switch my position on the fly. So I had made a decision that I no longer was going to hunt that same stand repeatedly and wait for deer to come to me. I wanted to actually go to them, and the reason is because I have a full-time job, I have a family, I do hunt quite a bit. I'm fortunate that my wife allows me to hunt, but the reality is I'm not out there every single day. I only have the weekends to basically hunt, and then a couple maybe grouped up days together that I can use for paid time off. So like I said, I wanted to make the most of the time that I had out in the woods, and like I said, being mobile and going where deer are has definitely, I think, played a huge role in my success in this deer. Now, talking about some of the tactics that had changed, this year I was actually going to the woods, focusing the majority of my hunts in the afternoons, and what I was doing was actually getting there super early, and I would go and scout public ground and try to hunt the freshest sign that I could possibly find. Now, this year we bounced around for numerous public land spots. A lot of these we had never set boots on the ground before. We did a lot of e-scouting in the off season, and like I said, we were going to these spots, we were getting there early, checking for the freshest sign, and then we were setting up. Now, in the early season, we did see a lot of deer activity, but we weren't seeing the caliber of bucks that we wanted to see. And it wasn't until probably about the middle of the season where I went to a new piece of public and I saw a nice Michigan whitetail that was actually bedded in some beans. Unfortunately, I never got a shot at that deer, and the more that I started to hunt that piece of property, the more that I realized that it was getting hammered with local pressure. So I kind of shifted back to a piece of public that I'm pretty familiar with and focused my efforts in on there. So and that's actually where I harvested this deer from. So like I said, I know this property well. I know that this property has the potential to hold high quality deer, and I was kind of focusing my efforts on one core area that I've hunted a lot in the past. I know deer travel that area frequently, but unfortunately throughout the season I was not seeing the caliber of deer that I was personally out after. So on the weekend of October 30th, I did a hunt. So on my way out, I had scouted an area I'm familiar with, but an area I had never hunted before in the past because I did not have the ability to be mobile with my setup. So as I was going through, I saw that this area was basically torn up with scrapes, rubs, and some of the rubs were on decent sized trees. And I knew based on that intel that there was a deer probably frequently traveling that area, and he was definitely something that would be worth shooting. I went out and I decided that I was going to hunt that spot. I had no idea at that point that it would be to this caliber, but like I said, I knew based on that sign that it was going to be a deer that we would want to take, or that we'd be willing to take. So to give you guys a little bit of background and kind of to paint the picture a little better, so I had woke up at 3 a.m. I ended up leaving my house at 4 a.m. and I got to the parking lot at 5 a.m. I had walked back. It's roughly about a 3/4 of a mile hike, and then I was able to locate the general vicinity of where I saw that fresh sign at, and I found a tree. And I remember looking at my clock, it was about 5:42 a.m. So once I had located a tree, I started getting set up with my mobile hunting setup, and I was in the tree ready to rock at basically 6:30, and the only thing that I needed to do from that point on was just wait for legal shooting light, which was 7:42 a.m. on November 6th. Now, it wasn't shortly after I heard something walking in from behind me, and I knew based on the sound and then also the time of the day that it wasn't a squirrel. So I had my bow ready, which was something that I've been doing a little more frequently. Definitely being with this mobile setup that I'm running, I'm only running 3 sticks, so I'm only getting roughly 14 to 15 feet high depending on how far I space those out. So like I said, I want to reduce my movement as much as possible. So holding on to my bow before those prime shooting hours is another thing that played a huge role in me harvesting this deer. So like I said, I could hear that deer walking in. I knew that it was most likely a deer just based on the time, and I had a doe walk out and she was roughly about 10 yards from my stand. So now she meandered around for a little while, and I actually debated on shooting this doe because at this point in my season I have no meat in my freezer, and in 2020 I had tag soup. But as I was debating on whether or not to take her or not, I thought to myself, you know, every time I see a lone doe, there's usually a buck that's not too far behind. So I decided to give her a pass and wait it out. And obviously I'm super glad that I did, because it wasn't shortly after, it was maybe like 10-15 minutes, I heard some grunting in the distance, and then that grunting continued to get louder. And at that point I knew this deer was committed and that he was going to come in, and I knew that there was a high probability that he was going to hit the exact same spot that she did when she had initially come in. Now, again, to kind of paint the picture, I'm set up in my Lone Wolf Custom Gear .5. I'm in the seated position. I got my bow in my lap. So once I heard that deer coming in, I positioned my bow to the left side and got ready to draw. And unfortunately, he caught that movement, but I don't think he really knew what I was, because the wind was in my favor for that spot. And then also I had a ton of back cover, so I was pretty covered up. He did take one bound to my left, further left, which is to my east, and then he kind of slowly walked off to about 20-ish yards. So as he was doing that, I pulled back, got settled in my shot, and just prayed that he was going to turn. And to my surprise, he actually went broadside and looked in the direction of that doe. So once he did that, I just basically focused on my shot, pulled through, and then I saw my lit knock fly through the air and smack him. So once the arrow hit him, he basically ran about 30 yards and went behind this really big tree. So once he went behind this tree, I could not see him anymore, and immediately I thought the shot was pretty far back. So I grabbed another arrow, I loaded it in the bow, and I was waiting for him to expose himself again so I could get a follow-up shot. However, that never happened. So I waited about 15-20 minutes waiting, you know, standing in my stand at this point, waiting for him to expose himself. And when he didn't, of course, my mind was just flooded with negative thoughts. You know, I was thinking that I made a bad shot. He possibly ran into the swamp. You know, I wasn't going to find him. So I decided to sit down, put my bow down, let myself kind of calm down, let that adrenaline rush kind of subside a little bit. And then what I started doing is I started scanning the area with my binoculars, looking for my arrow. Now, I knew the general direction of my arrow, obviously, because that's the way that I shot, but I also had a lit knock that I could see in the ground. So I knew I got a complete pass through, and I started looking for that arrow, and I saw it with my binos, and I could tell that that arrow was painted red, and I had good blood from the point of impact. Now, a little bit later, I panned over to the tree that he went behind, and I could see that there was a massive pile of blood. So I knew the deer was hurt. I knew that the probability of me finding him was pretty high. I just kind of needed to wait it out and give him a little bit of time to expire. So I waited about 30 minutes, and then I decided to get down and go and look for my arrow and see what the arrow looked like, see if I actually hit him a little far back and hit the guts. And then also I wanted to check to see what type of blood we had. Like I said, I could see it from the tree, so I knew it was a pretty good blood trail. But once I got down, found the arrow, gave it a quick smell, there was no gut matter on it, so I knew I made a pretty decent shot. And then from that point, I kind of just started following the blood trail, and I made it about 10 yards, and I could actually smell the deer in the area. So I knew he was super close. I knew he didn't go far, but again, at that point, I did not know if he had expired or not. So I stopped where I was at the point of smelling him, and then I just started scanning the area with my binos, and I saw him laying right behind behind the tree that he had actually went behind. So like I said, that tree was so large that I actually didn't even see this deer tip over. And then I didn't hear him tip over either, because the doe at that point was also bounding off in the west direction. So just with everything going on, like I said, I didn't even hear him. I had no idea that he was still laying behind that tree. So I sat there, I watched him for about 10-15 minutes to see if there was any movement, and there wasn't. So at that point I knew that it was safe to approach the deer and that he was most likely expired. And that's basically, you know, kind of wraps this hunt up. Now talking about some of the gear which I think made this hunt possible, and we kind of already talked about it, is just being or having the ability to be mobile and being able to go where the deer are and not waiting for them to show up. So I think if I had not have done that, I probably would not have had an opportunity at this buck, and if I did, it probably would not have been at close range, like 10 to 20 yards. It could have been, you know, 30, 40, or just outside of bow range, like it's been so many times in the past. So I do feel that being mobile has a huge benefit. Now, there's been a ton of modifications that I've made on the fly throughout the season to make my climbing the tree, getting up and down, more proficient, and we'll kind of talk about that in a little later video. I'll go over some of the changes that I've made to my setup. I'm very happy with this setup. It's very lightweight, it's very streamlined. I love how the sticks pack to the stand, and it's a very compact system. And you know, I've been running this, and like, I'm not gonna lie, mobile hunting is definitely a lot of work. It's way more work than I initially anticipated. But what I have learned to love about it is it keeps the hunt fresh. Like, you're going in, you're hunting these new spots, and you really never know what's around the corner. And case in point, this deer right here. I had no idea that this deer was in the area. So I'm very blessed that I had this opportunity. I'm very blessed that I have a wife who's very supportive of the amount of hunting that I do. And you know, it's just, all these things just kind of help this hunt come together. Now, I want to circle back around real quick about the filming aspect of it. So like I said earlier in the video, since I posted a picture on my Instagram and Facebook, I've had a ton of comments on whether or not I got this hunt on film. And the answer, like I said, is unfortunately no. And the reason is because I decided personally that I needed to take a break from YouTube. So I have put a ton of pressure on myself over the years. We've been doing YouTube now consistently for 4 years. And like I said, I put a ton of pressure on myself to create videos, content, and edit this content in a format that is enjoyable to the viewer. So and that whole process, it was kind of taking away from my enjoyment of hunting. It started to feel like work, and that is, if you know me, you know that that is not common for me. I love to hunt. It's a passion of mine, and the fact that it was feeling like work was really bothering me. So I felt like I needed to kind of put the cameras away and just enjoy hunting for what it is. Now, I know some people will respect that, and the people who don't, I really don't care. You know, if you guys don't want to follow the channel because I didn't decide to take a camera out into the woods, that's your call, and that's perfectly fine. I'm okay with that. I've accepted the fact that I did not get this on film. It is unfortunate. I would have loved to capture this hunt, but I could have recorded some post videos kind of explaining everything, going over my setup, but personally I did not want to interrupt that experience that I was having out in the woods. So this is my second best buck to date, and it's actually my second buck with a bow. So like I said, I didn't want to interrupt that experience, but I hope you guys did find this video either educational or helpful. Mainly, I just wanted to get on here, give you guys an update as to what's been going on, definitely for the people who've been following the channel and supporting us for so long. So if you guys are still out hunting, good luck to you. We'll be back out in the woods here for the Michigan gun season, which actually opened up on the 15th. For everyone who is subscribed to the channel, thank you. We greatly appreciate it. And if you have not subscribed to the channel, please consider do so. Your support greatly helps us out. And then if you have not checked out MichiganAmbushOutdoors.com, please go over there. We do have some hats available, and your guys' purchases of those hats greatly supports this channel and keeps us doing what we're doing. And until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you on the next one.